The first thing I will show you for your items here today are the infusions that you will place on your ascended items. Now you will need a lot of laurels for this, but all in all you will need 4 mighty world versus world infusions. You can get them from any laurel merchants in any battlegrounds here. Second to last tab, you can see them right there. There's the mighty world versus world infusion, giving you 5 power and 1% damage to guards, lords, and supervisors. You'll need 5 laurels and 125 badges of honor for each infusion. So as we look back at our weapons here, we have 2 on the bow and 2 on the sword. So that gives you a total of 4, which is 20 power and 5% extra damage to guards, lords, and supervisors. Now for the trinkets, there are offensive and defensive slots for each one. So for the backpiece, you'll have an offensive slot on it, as same with the amulet. So you'll want to get the precise world versus world infusion to get your critical chance as high as possible. And they also give you an extra 1% damage to guards, lords, and supervisors. Now for your rings and trinkets, you will have an offensive and defensive of each. So again, you'll have to get another 2 more precise world versus world infusions, giving you a total of 4 of these precise world versus world infusions. And for the 2 defensive ones, it is a good idea to give yourself a little bit more toughness, and that'll also contribute to yourself receiving 2% less damage from guards, lords, and supervisors. For the armor stats, to get your power, precision, and critical damage, you will need to, the cheapest way is to either farm a mixture of, or one of them, a raw dungeon, Cruicible of Eternity, or Citadel of Flame. Playing those dungeons will get you tokens in which you can return for buying pieces of the armor that you would like to have. Now mine is transmuted. I transmuted my Berserker armor with the armor from Twilight Arbor. And for each piece you want to place a ruby orb. That way you get the maximum amount of power and precision for the 2% critical damage on each one. I've tested a couple other runes out, like the Rune of the Scholar, Rune of the Ranger, a few of them that kind of go back and forth between how much power and precision you have and overall to critical damage, but I like just using ruby orbs the best. And you can also place your ruby orb on top of your breather. Now if you can get a better breather than this, you can get it out of doing TEQ. However, not too many servers out there have a whole lot of luck doing that dungeon. The next item we will talk about are weapons. In order to have the ultimate Berserker build, you will also need to have the ultimate Berserker weapons. This includes the Longbow and a Greatsword. For the Longbow, you will need to make the Zoija's Longbow. For that, you will need to get Huntsman, the station here, up to 500. You will need to buy the recipe, and you will need to buy the recipe for the inscription, the Zoija's Berserker inscription. In which case you'll need to make a Berserker's or a Calcum imbued inscription and the other items that you need, the crafting components. With this longbow, of course, with the infusions, you would like to place in the Superior Sigil of Accuracy to give you that extra critical % chance. As of right now, I left the world versus world, so I do not have the 25 stacks of precision that you get on entering in a world versus world and getting them with the Superior Sigil of Perception on 2 weapons. But for a secondary weapon, you will need a Greatsword. And with the Greatsword, you will have to get Weaponsmithing up to 500. I did this on a separate character. Because this is such a squishy build, to run with a pure Berserker Greatsword is not entirely ideal. I have tried many variations of different swords, and for a while I did like using the Crystal Guardian because of the balance between all the stats, the celestial stats. When making Ascended version, deciding to add in the extra power, and I spent 20-30 minutes just switching between all the sigils on the trading post before I came up with using the Superior Sigil of Intelligence as the best one. It is very cheap, and also just for play style, you are squishy. The only time you really use the greatsword is to kite around the battlefield, getting away from damage, negating it with the number 4, or to finish your enemy off. Now, to put the Superior Sigil of Intelligence in the weapon is in order to get 100% critical chance when swapping to this weapon. So, say your prey is low on health and you want to finish him off very quickly, you would switch to your greatsword and use the number 3 swoop on them, and that would normally take them down instantly. The reason for going with all the stats is that way you still maintain the power and the higher critical damage with the sword, but still maintaining some toughness, vitality, and healing power. Also, the number 2 skill inflicts the most damage, and it gives you that extra vulnerability. So you like to, since you inflict bleeding on critical hits, and this will have a 100% chance to inflict that bleeding, it is also kind of nice to have a little bit extra condition damage. Other than that, with this build we discussed how you get the armor, the weapons, the underwater weapons don't matter as much. I have gone with power, precision, and condition damage on the harpoon, and went for berserker stats with the spear gun. Now the accessories, which are the last thing that you need to get. The Backpiece, you will need to play Fractals of the Mist a lot. You will need to be able to buy the Backpiece for 1250 fractal relics, as well as getting the Gift of Ascension for 500. Or is it 1350 plus 500? So it ends up equaling 1850 fractal relics. You will need then infuse it in the Mystic Forge. That way you can get the overall higher stats. The amulets you can get easily from this vendor over here in Lion's Arch. This vendor, you can also buy your rings from it, but it is slightly cheaper to just trade your pristine fractal relics to a vendor inside of Fractals of the Mist for it. But for your amulets, it's your second tab, you will want to get the Mark of the Tethyos houses. This one has the offensive slot. Now for the trinkets, the accessories, you can get them from here as well. However, they cost 40 laurels a piece plus 50 globs of ectoplasm each, which is a little steep. The cheapest way to go about getting this one is just to do guild missions during the weekends with your guild and trade in 12 laurels and 5 gold for each one at this vendor next to the bank, this guild commendation trader. That person sells them. The rings I mentioned, the best place to get those are just inside of the Fractals of the Mist dungeon right in here. They are sold for 10 pristine fractal relics each, and that is the best way to get them. We have talked about getting all the armor, and in the previous video showed you the build. I hope you have fun playing with this Berserker Ranger set, and thank you.